In the news, the Trump administration has issued new tariffs on many of its allies, including Mexico and the European Union, with tariffs going between 20 and 30% and levies due on August 1st. The PKK, or Kurdistan Workers' Party, designated a terrorist organization by its opponents in Turkey, is beginning to lay down weapons in northern Iraq as it goes towards normalization of relations with several Middle Eastern entities. The Sudanese government announced advancements for its military into the southern region of Kordofan, a central county in the ongoing civil war, as they defeated more separatists from the SPLMN. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announced plans to work with 5 Republican governors to build 5 more detention centers for illegal criminals, similar to Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. As President El-Sharaa visits Azerbaijan, Israel is set to have normalization talks in the country's capital of Baku with the Syrians. Despite the growing Epstein scandal, FBI Director Kash Patel has reasserted his loyalty to Trump's agenda and refuses to step down. Who may step down is Fed Chair Jerome Powell, whose refusal to cut interest rates has made him a pariah amongst the Trump administration. In the news today, President Trump reaffirmed that the U.S. will indeed be selling $10 billion worth of military aid to the NATO allies, who will then give it to the Ukrainians. He also promised to give a 100% tariff on the Russians if they do not come to a ceasefire within 50 days. The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to lay off 1,400 Education Department employees and reassign their tasks to other departments. After the New York Times reported that it was an auto pen used in the waning hours of President Biden's administration by a White House aide to pardon Dr. Anthony Fauci and others, Biden defended the decision, saying he was fully aware of who he was pardoning at the time. The Syrians are sending their military to the south to deal with fighting between the Bedouins and the Druzes, who are backed up by the Israeli military. The Lexington Baptist shooter has been identified as Guy House, a 47-year-old who yesterday shot and killed 2 women and injured a state trooper. As Democrats clamor for the release of the Epstein files, Ghislaine Maxwell, the embattled and amoral assistant of Jeffrey Epstein, has said she is willing to testify before Congress regarding names on the client list. And finally, in one of the largest mass deportations in history, the Iranians are planning to remove 4 million Afghans from their country, with 1.4 million undocumented already being expelled. In the news today, House Republicans voted unanimously against a bill with an attached amendment that would have brought the Epstein files to discussion on the House floor. This comes as Speaker Johnson urges the Department of Justice to release as much as they can regarding Epstein and the Epstein files, and President Trump, while praising Pam Bondi's handling of the growing scandal, has also said that the department should release what it can. The Trump administration is also investigating the use of the auto pen by former President Joe Biden in up to 1 million government documents. This comes after a New York Times expose claimed that Biden's aides used the auto pen at the end of his administration with his permission to sign the pardons of many prominent figures, including Dr. Anthony Fauci. The U.S. has halted Israeli military strikes in southern Syria as the Israelis seek to back up the Druzes, who fight against both the Bedouins and the Syrian military. And after the Trump administration announced new investments in Grok XAI from the Department of Defense, it also announced new investments in Pennsylvania's oil and coal production. And finally, after a vicious and brutal weekend of fighting, the RSF, a Sudanese rebel force, is claiming the ability to create its own autonomous zone in the south of Sudan. In the news today, despite growing bipartisan pressure from both chambers of Congress to release the Epstein files and be more transparent with the American people, Donald Trump has asserted that the Epstein files are indeed a hoax concocted by the deep state to ruin his presidency and agenda. Trump praised the work of Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying everything that is credible will be released and probably already has been, and cited the need for the FBI to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, as he is calling it. Trump also contradicted earlier narratives, perhaps some of his own, that he was about to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell without reason, citing the need for an investigation into how the Federal Reserve has handled over $2 billion in renovation funds. The U.S. has also brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Syria after Israel struck several prominent Syrian cities, ostensibly hoping to protect the religious minority Druzes in the south. The Druzes made their own separate peace with the Syrians, and many are leaving the country. As their economy contracts and the Polish one expands, Germany is seeing more Poles leaving their country than coming in for the first time in 25 years. Alaskans along the coast are worried about a tsunami following a 7.3 magnitude earthquake that hit right off their shores. In the news today, the Israeli-backed Hijra, a Druze militia, continued its fights against the Bedouins in southern Syria as Syria deployed more of its military there, and the U.S. denied any involvement or approval of Israel's previous attacks on Syria from yesterday. The Trump administration is suspending the LGBTQ hotline for distressed teenagers, 988, with the other hotline still available for all users regardless of their sexual orientation. Pakistan has declared a state of emergency in the Punjab region with 159 people dead and over 60 still missing. A monsoon has intensified and the flooding is out of control. The voting age has been lowered in the United Kingdom from 18 to 16, allowing younger people to participate in the democratic and parliamentary process. Horrible fire in Iraq killed over 60 people, one of the worst fires in the nation's history, following up fires from earlier this week in Argentina and Belgium. Despite their ceasefire with Rwanda, members of M23, a Tutsi militant group, continue their attacks in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The German economy continues to contract as more Poles leave and enter, and the World Bank ranks them 7th behind the Russians. In the news today, the Department of National Intelligence revealed that the Obama administration was aware that Russian influence on the 2016 election was not true before and after the election, but perpetuated the idea anyways. As beef prices rose by 12% over the last year, Walmart is announcing a raise of up to 51% on some items, and many are citing tariffs as the reason for these increases. As both sides stall in peace talks, Pope Leo has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza after the only Catholic church was struck by the Israelis and 3 people were killed. For his part in an attempted coup in 2022, a Brazilian judge has ruled that former President Jair Bolsonaro cannot travel outside of the country and have no contact with anyone involved in the coup. And as Donald Trump sues the Wall Street Journal for a story that included a tawdry letter from Jeffrey Epstein from 2003, he has also asked his attorney general to request grand jury testimony in the Epstein case from New York. President Ibrahim Traoré went one step closer to permanent presidency as he suspended the country's independent election commission. And civilians have been caught in the crossfire between the Druzes and the Bedouins in southern Syria as they continue fighting.